Voted one of the top 43 naturopathic doctors worldwide, Dr. Ameet Aggarwal has helped thousands of people around the world heal from trauma, anxiety, depression, and chronic disease by combining naturopathic and functional medicine, Gestalt psychotherapy, family constellations therapy, EMDR, and homeopathy. His free online course and books on drameet.com will help you get faster relief from burnout, anxiety, depression, chronic disease, and trauma by helping you heal your mind and body together holistically. Dr. Ameet, welcome.
Thank you, Lloyd. It's a pleasure to be back, and I'm excited to touch upon family constellation therapy, how we're going to heal ancestral trauma, the science of homeopathy, and why energy medicine heals both the mind and body, and why mind and body have to heal together in order to really get long-term benefits from any healing modality. And if this time we might talk about a bit of liver detox. Let's see how we go.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm really excited to be speaking with you about this. But so that's a lot of topics to cover in a little time. And I know your passion is homeopathy. Yeah. So I want to just ask you, homeopathy, consciousness, the mind, how does this all fit together? Does it fit together? And how does homeopathy heal consciousness and the mind? Quite a big question, yeah?
Awesome. Yes, definitely. So homeopathy is an energetic medicine. The system of homeopathy was developed by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann in the late 1800s, I believe. And what happens is our emotions, our consciousness, our vibrations are at an energetic level, right? Our thoughts create changes in the world through energy movements. And so homeopathy, being energetic in nature, has the ability to access the vibrational level of our existence, of our being, which is our consciousness, our emotions, our thoughts. And why that's important in terms of curing chronic disease and illness is that sometimes a lot of disease is caused by a disturbance in our emotions from trauma we've experienced either in childhood, even adulthood, and also traumas experienced by our ancestors. And we're going to talk about family constellations therapy soon, how to heal that ancestral trauma. And so these imbalances in our emotions, in our stress levels, change our physiology. It manifests physiologically. Right? So for example, if you're stressed and traumatized, you'll go through an adrenal response, a fight or flight response. You'll make adrenaline and cortisol. And when you have excessive adrenaline and excessive cortisol, that causes a neurotransmitter imbalance, right? Serotonin, dopamine, melatonin, all those things start dropping, leading to anxiety and depression. And imbalanced cortisol levels, we know, depletes your immunity, blood sugar storage levels, causes weight gain, causes water retention, and hormonal imbalances leading to chronic disease. So you can see how emotional changes from trauma, from belief systems, from an unhealthy consciousness translates into physiological changes in the body, leading to chronic physical disease, as well as mental issues like anxiety, depression, and insomnia.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. How you fit all that together. So yeah, we are vibrational beings and we're both on the same page on that. And this is very much energy medicine because the thing is with this homeopathy, and I've tried this myself and I'm a believer, and it's not a question about belief because there is science, and we can get onto that in a sec, but it's the actual physical composition of these little little tablets that we take, little granules that we take. When we analyze it, there's actually none of the actual original chemical constituent in there. It's basically a vibration, is it not?
Yeah. So how it was developed is what Dr. Samuel Hahnemann did is he basically ate a lot of a certain bark of a tree, the cinchona tree. And when he ate too much of it, he started getting symptoms of fever, headaches, bone pain, etc. The cinchona tree is used to extract quinine to heal malaria. So suddenly he says, gosh, when I eat toxic amounts of the medicine, I get the symptoms of what it's meant to cure, right? And so what he did was he then took very diluted forms of the medicine, and he's got a beautiful book called The Organon, which goes into the entire science of this. So there is science behind this energetic medicine. So what he took is diluted amounts of a substance, severely diluting. And how do we do that? We take one basically drop of a substance, dilute it in 100 parts of water and alcohol, shake that up for a long time, for about 4 hours, and then take another drop of that mixture, redilute it, and then redilute it again, and so on. And the more dilute you do, the more you dilute the original substance, the more powerful it is energetically. It's like we're going into antimatter, right? And the principle of homeopathy is like cures like. So what does that mean? A small amount of the substance will cure in a person the symptoms that are created by the toxic amount of the substance. If you cut an onion and sniff it, you'll get watery eyes and a runny nose, right? So if somebody comes to me with an allergy, runny eyes, watery eyes and a runny nose, I'm simplifying this, of course, and I give them a very diluted form of onion or homeopathic onion, the watery eyes and the runny nose will dissipate because we're matching the vibration, right? So the person who is in a disease state with watery eyes, runny nose, or depression, anxiety, asthma, eczema, etc., has a certain vibration to them, right? Each disease state is a specific vibration. And when you bring a remedy, a vibrational remedy that matches that same vibration, that frequency, similar frequencies cancel each other out. One. So we change the frequency of the disease, and we actually free up the vital spirit of a person. I'll talk about vitality and consciousness and spirit compared to what we call the mind shortly. But when we free up the healing spirit, then what we call the vis, that's our natural healing spirit, takes over the body and creates a self-healing response. Let me oversimplify. When you cut yourself, right, even without medicine, your body will start to heal itself. We have a self-healing mechanism, right? When you go through an emotional release, you feel better automatically after the emotional release. That feeling better is a self-healing mechanism. That is created by what we call the vis, the vitality of a person. So homeopathy has the power to really disentangle the negative frequencies of disease away from the vis, so the vis takes over and heals the body automatically.
Yeah. And
there's been thousands of studies done, well, I don't know about 1,000, but lots of studies done on homeopathy for certain diseases, right? Arsenicum album is great for food poisoning. Lots of studies done on that. And then there's studies done for eczema, for migraines, for chronic gastric issues as well. The beauty of homeopathy, though, and why there's not many clinical studies done, is because it's a very individualized medicine. What does that mean? When somebody comes to me with stomach pain and a headache and diarrhea and vomiting, right? They might need a remedy like Arsenicum album. But if somebody else comes with diarrhea and vomiting, but maybe now there's more gas while they're having diarrhea and there's no headache, and maybe there's watery eyes, you see that unique picture of a person is different. So their vibration is different. And so homeopathy has the power to match that unique vibration with a different remedy. There could be a lot of cramping and, difficulty digesting raw foods. We might give something like Veratrum album, for example. Veratrum album is another homeopathic remedy for gastric disturbances, as well as other mental disturbances as well. So in homeopathy, we look at the physical and the mental picture of a person to find the best remedy for them in that moment.
Yes.
And so that's why homeopathy is powerful, is because it takes into account all the symptoms of a person, not just diarrhea, right? You look at the type of diarrhea, the mindset. Is the person chilly? Can they drink water or no water? Is there blood in the diarrhea? Is it green stool? For example, children who are teething, they'll be crying a lot and they might get like green stool. We'll often give them like chamomilla, homeopathic chamomilla, which is excellent, right? Belladonna, another common remedy for headaches and fever, is often given when the headache is more throbbing, which is a different headache from a piercing pain or a tight band around the head. So you can see the importance of homeopathy in modern medicine today because of its ability to individuate symptoms and really get to the root cause.
Yeah, I love that. It seems incredibly precise, and I imagine that's a lot to do with the skill of the practitioner as to how precise that is. And, you know, when you're saying this, I'm just thinking frequency medicine, and, you know, I'm in this whole universe of energy and vibration, which is so important, I think, too, that people can appreciate how important this is for health, this looking at health through this lens of energy, vibration, frequency. So homeopathy is this amazing tool, we're both agreed, which we can use for, it seems, almost anything, but we can specifically use it for trauma. And trauma is something that we're going to go back to again and again and again on this summit, because it's such an important topic, and I'm sure you're with me on this. It's such a big, it's such a big challenge for humanity dealing with this trauma. So, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm going to go through a few remedies that I use for trauma. Most of the remedies are in my course online. So if you get lost, you can just go there, okay? So why do we use homeopathy for trauma, number one? Well, certain trauma states have unique pictures as well, right? For example, if you are frightened and you have lots of palpitations, you're fearful, fear of dying, maybe fearful of the dark, that's a certain trauma response picture, which is very different from a person who maybe gets headaches, is withdrawn after trauma, feels a lot of resentful. You can see how we uniquely respond to trauma based on our upbringing, our constitution, our programming, right? And so homeopathy, because of its vibrational nature, and when you're traumatized, you're vibrating in a certain way, and your emotions are trapped in a certain vibration, homeopathy, when we find the right remedy, that vibration can match the emotional stuckness of a person and free that stuckness. For example, aconite, beautiful remedy we use. This is homeopathic, of course. Beautiful remedy we use when somebody has been traumatized and they have a lot of palpitations, fear of the dark, for example, a lot of anxiety. If somebody has, lost a loved one or gone through a lot of financial stress and loss and feels guilty, maybe suicidal, feels a lot of sense of failure, that whole sinking, destructive feeling, we often give aurum metallicum, which is homeopathic gold, right? If somebody's gone through a breakup, this is one of my favorite remedies, and they're tearful, anxious, they have a lump in their throat, they're crying often, and they're feeling maybe betrayed or vulnerable. Ignatia Amara is another great homeopathic remedy for that particular picture. And so when we're treating trauma, or when I'm treating trauma with homeopathy, I'll combine, of course, Gestalt therapy, EMDR, and constellation work. But when I'm treating it with homeopathy, I will look at the type of trauma. So in homeopathy, we look at also, was the trauma from sexual abuse? Was it from financial loss? Was it from fighting between your parents? And I have all these in the course. Or was it from being betrayed? Or seeing a huge accident? Each trauma is different. We look at that, number one. Then number two, we look at the response a person has. Are they fearful? Are they withdrawn? Are they paranoid? Some people start seeing images flashing back. Or do they have insomnia? Or some people start seeing faces in front of them, right? And they go more into paranoia, post-trauma. So I look at that response as well. And then I'll combine those and decide on the best remedy for them. And then, of course, we tweak the dosage depending on the intensity of their symptoms, how long ago the trauma was, and how sensitive a person is. If a person is very sensitive, we need to give low-dose remedies versus high-dose remedies. And so these are all the factors we take into account when healing trauma with homeopathy. And that's why I love homeopathy, because it's so unique to the person's individual symptoms, and sometimes I find it actually goes deeper than therapy. Because in therapy, we're healing one emotional response and mindset at a time with each sentence we're doing, depending on the type of trauma healing you're doing, whether it's somatic experiencing, Gestalt, EMDR, etc. Yeah, we're working with a singular response or like a combined response to an event. Homeopathy, because it includes the entire frequency of a person with its energetic nature, not only does it heal that physiological or energetic response of the human being, the stress response, it goes deeper and shifts the mindset and the belief systems and the whole container of the trauma at a much deeper and faster level. So I personally believe it's important, if you can, to combine psychotherapy with homeopathy.
Yes.
And I often use something called a rescue remedy, which is Bach flower remedies. Bach flower remedies are very similar. They're homeopathic in nature, made out of flower essences, and also work vibrationally to heal particular emotions. And I find the response to therapy is much faster and much more longer lasting because we're including an energetic or vibrational medicine in the healing process.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's very profound how it can impact our health on so many levels. And the other thing I just want to say, to my understanding, there are no side effects. I mean, this is vibrational. There's no side effects to using homeopathy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this. Yeah, there is no side effects to a certain extent. What people might experience as a side effect is the proving of the remedy. If they take too much of the remedy, they'll get symptoms of what it's trying to cure. For example, I'll often use Nux vomica for chronic constipation. But if you take too much Nux vomica, you'll start experiencing constipation a bit. But the beauty of it, because homeopathy is so gentle and powerful at the same time, it's not like a chemical side effect that's going to do damage to your body. Yeah. Just stop the remedy and your natural healing vital force starts rebalancing itself and sheds the vibrations of the remedy and comes back to normal or balance.
Yeah, fantastic. So, and we could talk at length about this. We could talk for hours about this. Yeah. And I know you're very passionate about it, but I know you have a lot of other tricks up your sleeve, so to speak. And one of them is family constellation therapy, which we can use to heal ancestral and family trauma. Can you talk to us about that, how we can use this, what it is exactly, and how we can use this?
Okay. So our mindset is affected by our beliefs, the events in our life, our relationships with people, our upbringing. Yeah. And so we all experience, 99% of us experience trauma in our lives, whether it's a relationship breakup, seeing our parents fighting, divorces, whatever, financial issues, violence, sexual abuse, etc. Those are obvious traumas. But sometimes something happens in our family system or in our ancestors that we don't realize we're carrying on their behalf. And epigenetics has shown that we do inherit trauma. There's changes in our genetic structure based on the traumas of our ancestors, right? So children or survivors of people of the Holocaust, for example, are more prone to anxiety, depression, OCD, and raised cortisol levels, similar to descendants of the survivors of 9/11, all right? So we carry these traumas that belong to the ancestors. That's one kind of trauma that we experience that without knowing.
We're carrying them energetically. Yeah,
we're carrying them energetically. Correct. Yeah. Biologically speaking, we can explain it like this. If your grandmother was in the war, right, and she experienced a lot of bombs and starvation, etc., her physiology will change. Yeah, she will change her genetics to survive. And your mother is already in her in the form of an egg, right? So because your grandmother's physiology changes, your mother's egg, the egg that produces your mother, will have changed slightly, will have altered, right? And that mother is going to produce you. So whatever happens to your grandmother, that physiology will also change, and you'll start also carrying those changes.
So, because when I've heard it, and I'm sure you've seen this, and I've heard people talk about this, And what people say, and I'm just talking about people, not doctors like yourself, but people go, oh, it's in your genes. So is that what you're saying there? It's in the genes?
That's a tough one. Sometimes it's in the genes and sometimes it's just there energetically. Yeah. And family constellations therapy uses healing sentences. We say sentences to release the energetic entanglements we have, with our ancestors as well as with the trauma in the family system. And I want to talk about a few different traumas that we deal with in family constellations therapy that are very common and often overlooked. Yeah. One is an imbalance. For example, if mom is super depressed and neglected and abandoned by your father, for example, you will often take mom's side. Yeah, you will have a certain loyalty to mom. And in a way, you cut off yourself from father, or you reject or neglect father. So automatically you're going into this loyalty dynamic. Yeah, and you're facing away from the father. You're maybe angry, resentful on behalf of your mother. Yeah, on behalf of your mother. Yeah, this comes naturally to us. It's a natural response. That creates changes in your mindset, your loyalties, your beliefs about how to be in a relationship. Yeah, we get entangled with the trauma between our parents. Yeah, I've often seen this lower people's immunity, get them into dysfunctional relationships, and go into some sadness, OCD, anxiety, or depression. A healing sentence. So in a way, first of all, I want to explain the imbalance here is that we're taking on what doesn't belong to us. Number two, the other imbalance is we're becoming a parent to our parent. We are protecting the mother versus energetically in a healthy system. We are meant to be protected by the parents. Yeah. And the parents give us life. Yeah. So we go forward in life rather than looking backwards and trying to basically fix what's broken in our parents. Yeah. What supports life is to go forward. What stifles life is to go backwards and try and fix and all that. Yeah. And so a healing sentence could be, dear mom, I love you very much. This is your grief. I respect you dearly and completely as I hand this back to you. I'm only the child. You're the big one. Let me honor you in a better way by trusting that you are big enough to carry this between you and dad. I'm only the little one to you both. Or, dear mom, please bless me as I also look towards dad as my father and not push him away out of my life, out of loyalty to you anymore, so that I can breathe in life. I can, receive life from the other half of me. These are healing sentences.
Yeah.
Another imbalance often looked is when there's a miscarried or aborted child in the family. Either you have miscarried or aborted a child, or your parents have. Yeah. So if your parents have miscarried or aborted a child, often there's deep grief in the family that is unacknowledged. That's one. Number two, you often believe you're the first child or the second child, but in actuality, in the system, you're the third or the fourth child. And so as children, one, we carry the grief of the family. Number two, there's a subconscious guilt of surviving that we don't realize is happening. Number three, because we are now assuming we're the first child, we feel overwhelmed in life because we're trying to take the place of what's missing. So we'll feel we have to do a lot in order to achieve anything or to get our parents' attention. We have to try really hard or get really busy in life, and we won't be able to cope. We'll never feel satisfied. And when you begin to feel into your system and say, dear mom and dad, I see you've lost a child. I miss that child as well. Your grief is deep and big for the family. Mine is different. Mine is for a sibling. I give what is yours back to you, and I also grieve my sibling. Let me take my place as the third child or the second child, right? Let me take my correct place in this family. Please look at me as the third child, and let us honor and acknowledge these children before me. Yeah. The moment you acknowledge these children before you, you will feel a settling down in your nervous system immediately. And so that is another imbalance that is corrected in family constellations therapy, that imbalances of excluding people. So we're including people.
Mm.
We could be including miscarried or aborted children. We could be re-including, the black sheep of the family, somebody who is excluded for their drug habits or a murderer. And also, often we don't talk about the people who inflicted wounds on our family, people who murdered our family members. Yeah. Some of our family members are victims of war, or some of our family members killed people in the war. And we need to, in a constellation setting, we acknowledge those who died because of our ancestors, and we also acknowledge the murderers or the people who harmed us. And we give them a place in the system, we acknowledge them, and we leave that struggle, that pain with the ancestors, because they just want us to live a free, vibrationally healthy life.
Yes.
Yeah. If we're resentful on behalf of the ancestors, we kind of take on their burden that they're meant to resolve. So we diminish their integrity, their authenticity. Yeah. And then we block our own growth and our spiritual development. And as we know, spiritual development increases our vibration and brings about deeper healing to your cells as well.
It's win-win, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to be clear, we can use these healing sentences when the person's no longer there. So we can address mom. Mom doesn't have to be there. Mom can be long gone, and these people can be long gone, but it's still effective, yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I do the constellation work online. Sometimes some people do it in groups where we have representatives. So we'll have people working with me, and I'll ask you to ask somebody, you'll pick somebody, say, please represent my mother. Another person, please represent my father. These representatives will tap into the field of knowledge. Yeah. It's the knowing field that has the information of your ancestors, of your mother, your father, the missing child, etc. And I, as a therapist, will observe the behavior of these representatives, and they will behave exactly like your relatives. It's unbelievable. They'll never have met them, but the energy comes through the field. And the representatives will pick up this emotions, this behavior, and I will watch the behavior and understand, this one's angry at this person, or they're looking down at the floor, very sad. That often signifies an abortion, for example, or a miscarriage. Or the mother will turn away from the father's looking at an ex-lover, right? So the father is preoccupied, the mother's feeling neglected. You will be carrying your mother's neglect, so you will feel unsatisfied in life and maybe resentful for your father, but you don't know why, because this missing lover is not talked about.
Okay.
And so that all gets revealed in a constellation.
Yes. Sounds very powerful, and kind of working with the universe, working with the field, the unified field, whatever you want to call it, and working with consciousness. I think we're back to that. That's what I was thinking when you were explaining that. We're actually working with consciousness, collective consciousness, the family consciousness. It seems as though that's where we are. But so I want to talk about actionable steps, but I just want to talk about, so shifting gears again, I want to talk about liver detox, because I know you do a lot of work on this, and this is very important. So yeah, perhaps you could explain why it's important, liver detox, and what do we need to know about this? A little introduction to people maybe that's not heard of it, or learning a bit more for people that have heard of this and know about this.
Okay, again, I'm going to zip through this very quickly because of time, but everything's there on the online course, yeah? So the liver is the master organ, okay? It's in charge of detoxification, enzyme activation, bile production, hormone regulation, vitamin storage, blood sugar storage, etc. Almost every single physical disease can be connected to an imbalanced liver, okay? So you have a gut, intestines, like a tube, a lining kept healthy by good bacteria and good food. Over time, with antibiotic use, poor diet, etc., the lining gets damaged. Toxins go into the bloodstream, cause inflammation everywhere. Your liver gets inflamed. Your liver is also inflamed from lots of different toxins from the environment, from pesticides, etc. When your liver is inflamed, it produces less bile. When it produces less bile, you get more indigestion, gas, bloating, and a worsening of intestinal damage, which is known as leaky gut syndrome. So everyone's taking probiotics and changing their diet, but they're not healing the liver, which is producing all this bile to detoxify and heal the gut as well. Yeah. When your liver is stagnant, you go into hormonal imbalance. Yeah. So PMS symptoms, for example, is often a progesterone deficiency caused by liver stagnation, right? And people are missing the point here. They're taking, the birth control pill or hormonal replacement therapy unfairly to their bodies because they're ignoring the health of their liver, right? Cholesterol management, huge issue with the liver. Yeah. Heart disease, for example, chronic inflammation damages your heart vessels, right? And so that damage causes plaque formation. Yes, we reduce inflammation by healing the gut, removing inflammatory foods. But if your liver is toxic, you're going to have toxin buildup in your blood, causing further inflammation. Same with weight gain. With sluggishness in our system, your metabolism goes and crash. Your thyroid will not work so well. Yeah. This toxic buildup will cause more water retention, blood sugar storage issues, leading to weight gain. With this imbalance of toxins and cortisol levels, serotonin, dopamine, melatonin, GABA, they all drop. All the neurotransmitters drop, leading to anxiety, depression, OCD, insomnia. Yeah. So you can see how mental health symptoms are also affected by inflammation, your gut and your liver, as well as, of course, trauma, which we use either EMDR, somatic experiencing, Gestalt, and family constellations for, and homeopathy, of course. And so that's why it's important to use energetic medicines like homeopathy, psychotherapy as well, to create that witness, that acknowledgement, and heal your biology through healing your gut and your liver and your adrenal system, which I talk about in the course as well, together, holistically, so that mind and body heal synergistically together. Yeah, and that helps you become less dependent on medications, on supplements, and long-term therapy as well.
Excellent. Yeah. So you've shared really a lot of actionable things we can do in really all these different topics, which we've just been touching on, obviously, because these are all really big topics. But I'd like to ask you to share your top 3 tips here for healing. Yeah, healing with consciousness, we can call it that, or for just plain healing. What are your top 3 tips? Like somebody who's listening and you want to give them something, and I know you're a very generous person and you want to heal humanity like I do. Seems like a big deal a bit. We've got a lot on our plate. But what are like the top 3 actionable things that you want to share, you want to direct people to?
So the basics are removing inflammatory foods from your diet. Typically, it's gluten and dairy, which trigger inflammation and then affect your mind and body, and detoxifying your liver, which I've talked about. The next important step is actually mindfulness, but mindfulness in the opposite way. So we are super busy in our minds, observing ourselves with thoughts. We have a mindset. We have an interpretation of who we are, our identity, yeah, and a sense of individuality, yeah, given to us by our own mind. But it's a very automatic thing we're doing without realizing that the mind is actually blocking the heart and the spirit. Yeah. So, and I'm reading A Course in Miracles. I'm studying that. I use that in the therapy as well. And teachings like this help us move from mind, busyness, into more heart-centered flow. And when you're less busy in the mind and more connected to the heart and the spirit, and really your energetic alignment to spirit, to the divine light, then you're more clear about your path. One, your vitality increases, right? So automatically your physiology will heal as well, right? So an actionable step would be going into meditation, yeah, but with a lot of compassion and forgiveness for yourself. Yeah, rather than saying, okay, I'm doing this wrong, or I'm doing this and I've been like this, and being very over self-observant, because that's still engaging the mind. Yeah, go into a meditation where you're engaging with the breath, concentrating on this divine light above you, and also sensing your body. Yeah, how does the body feel with each breath? Something like Vipassana meditation, for example, can be fantastic as well. Yeah, and this will free the busyness of the mind that's really attacking your cells, because the mind is trying to protect your existence and your ego and your sense of individuality, because it's like trying to operate in this reality, what we call reality, this world, yeah, through thoughts, through intentions, through interpretations. Yeah. Now, what I've described is a long-term, well, it's not so long-term, but it's a process. It is super easy to do when you start healing your emotions. So that's the third or fourth actionable step, is really to work on trauma, heal trauma. Yeah. Go to a good therapist, somatic experiencing, Gestalt, EMDR, all those ones that include the body in healing. Yeah. Try not to go to therapists who guilt you or challenge you into change, because yes, you go into change, but it comes from a place of being belittled or being forced to change. And when you do that, there's a part of you that's still resistant or feeling like belittled and I have to change. There's a should in your system. And that is not spiritually healthy. Yeah. Go to therapies that really work with love, compassion, acknowledgement of your honest state. Yeah. Some therapists get frustrated because they're frustrated because, I don't know, because you seem incapable of change, but they're not getting the true inner intricate trauma that happened to you that leaves you feeling paralyzed and incapable of change at that moment. Yeah. So look for a good therapist and be kind to yourself. Yeah. Don't read all these psychology books that tell you, oh, you have a neurosis or you have this and you have that, because suddenly you're walking around trying to heal yourself at the same time applying a label to yourself. I'm trying to heal my neurosis. So automatically you're attacking yourself with a thought while trying to heal something. So you're screwing your whole mind up, right? It's madness. So a lot of psychology and social media stuff or society harms us with the intention of doing good. Yeah, by applying labels. So be careful about labels as well, please.
Beautiful. We're out of time. I could talk for hours, actually, and you've given a lot, and you've covered so many topics, complex topics, but explain them very simply. And I think that's, I've particularly appreciated that. So Dr. Ameet, thank you so much. Firstly, for the work you're doing in the world, and secondly, for sharing it today with us on the summit here.
A real pleasure. And I wish all the listeners, that you get in touch with your heart with a lot of self-forgiveness and detachment from the people who hurt you or sent you into a mental spiral, with a lot of love.
Love, that's it. Thank you so much. My name is Lloyd Borrell from electricsense.com. Have a great day. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.